Hey there, welcome to the program. This is Our Healthy Homes. OurHealthyHomes.com is the big website, 651-775-9194. 651-775-9194. Almost gave you my cell phone number there.
Oh, don't do that.
The 4 pillars of a healthy home, that's what we chat about here. We talk about the house itself. We talk about the interior ecosystem in the house. We talk about your physical body, and we talk about your emotional and spiritual well-being. All 4 of those pillars have to be in place, or the roof comes tumbling down, and it is young living or assisted living. You can make your home a healthy home. Mm-hmm. And it all starts with you, and it begins right now with the lovely and talented Sheila Hittner hobbling in, made it into the big studio.
I got to go in an entrance where there wasn't any stairs. So I had a little pickleball injury today, but it's only temporary. I mean, it's gonna be fine. I'll be fine by Monday.
I don't know who's when Sheila is injured. I don't know who pays for more, her or me, because we hear about it. If I kept track, I threatened one time that I was going to keep a journal of all of her aches and pains and complaints, and it looked like the Encyclopedia Britannica.
But it's been so long now since my health journey.
Oh yeah,
right? It's been so long since I've complained about anything.
Yeah, it's been at least since Monday.
I didn't ask you to put my shoe back on today, so that was pretty good.
All right. What do you got coming up?
All right. So speaking of coming up, I get a lot of questions on cleansing. Mm-hmm. Which ones to do? Why do I need to do them? Do I need to do them? And the answer is yes, you do. We live in a toxic world. We have bioaccumulation of all of our toxic
stuff.
Right, from products to your household products to the environment outside, like all the from also the topic that we're going to be talking about today as well. And I'm going to save that so that you come back for the next segment. And so Cleanse with Confidence is coming up on October 22nd. So you can go to ourhealthyhomes.com, click on the events tab, and you can see what I have coming up. And so if you're feeling overwhelmed by the amount of cleanses that are out there, and it's a big talk out there now about doing the cleanses, and so you can go down the rabbit hole online and then end up nowhere. What do you say? A confused mind does nothing. And so I will share with you the types of cleanses, because we have our kidneys that needs to be cleansed, our liver, your gut, your brain, and all sorts of things. So you're going to learn about the benefits of cleansing, and then how to choose the right one for you, and where to start. And I know that people have burning questions that they want to ask me. So I'm hoping that you're going to come with your questions so that I can answer your questions, and most importantly, empower you to cleanse with confidence and achieve some optimal health naturally, because it is possible, and I always say I'm living proof of that. So with that, if you don't eliminate the toxins, drain the body, that can keep you stuck from some of the major goals that people have is basically weight loss or the belly, mm-hmm. right? And so that's just where the body holds it. So if the tubes aren't open, right, and allowing the flow of everything that you're putting in to go out, you're stuck, mm-hmm. right? So you're not draining.
A little Drano.
Yes. Okay, a natural Drano. Yes. And so all of that affects many things. Mm-hmm. So I mean, your hormones, your blood sugars, your cholesterol. Like when the body's off kilter, it affects a bunch of different things.
Think of the skin.
Yeah,
I'm looking at your face right now.
Shush.
No. I was about to give you a backhanded compliment.
Okay.
So I was looking at your face right now. You haven't got. I mean, you've got a few wrinkles on there, but it's not like craters.
No.
Some ladies and guys, but guys don't wear the makeup. But there's a lot of ladies, I'm guessing, that at night before they go to bed, they take their makeup off. They do it with the lights off. You know what I'm saying? Because it's scary. But if you want nice, smooth, healthy-looking skin, that comes from the inside out. You can't get that by smearing stuff on the outside.
Yes.
It comes from the inside out, and you gotta work the regimen. We'll show you how to do it.
Yep.
Easy to do. It takes time. It takes commitment.
Take time. Yep.
Takes a little
and commitment.
But it's.
But we didn't do all this stuff to us in a day.
Right.
Right. So we have to keep that into perspective that for me it was 50 years of some bad choices.
That's what I tell the grandkids. I didn't get old in a day. It took 70 years. So.
Exactly. Right. And it's funny. Maybe it's not funny, but when the health crisis started, 10 years ago, and then I cleaned it up, it took me 2 years to clean it up, and now I have a passion to share. And it was probably, I don't know, maybe 5 years. And I would run into people and they would say, "Oh my gosh, you look amazing."
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, "Well, how bad did I look before?"
Yeah.
Right? Because I never got those compliments before.
Right.
And I was younger.
Right.
Right? Like some guy on the pickleball cart thought I was 40 the other day, the way I was running around. Well, today a little boo-boo, but seriously. So you can get your body back. You can get your hormones and your I call it the muffin top. We can melt down that muffin top. Again, it does take some work, but we do need to work on that, and I'm here to help you. So that class, Table Talk, is October 22nd, 6:30. That one is in person. And then I have a Zoom for you, and this is a first aid kit. So when we typically need something, we run to the cabinet and we grab,
whatever's there.
Yeah, anything, right? That's over the counter. I don't even know what these things are called anymore because it's been so long. That's been
Advil.
Advil, but I was thinking some of the creams and that kind of thing.
Yep.
That it's always
first aid cream.
Yeah, it's always shocking to me, and it shouldn't shock me, that people will run for whatever, but and put it on their skin and not think twice, but they're
no idea
so
what's
concerned about the lavender, oh my gosh, should I
Yep.
put that on my curling iron burn? I don't, so it's we need to just educate and have a conversation around when those accidents happen. What can you use that isn't going to burden the body anymore? And so our kids are born with a lot more toxins from the mother's placenta than our day. So they're already coming in out of the chute a little sicker.
Right.
And so the more we just keep putting those chemicals in their body from whatever the thing is, we're just burdening their body even more, and they're going to have a harder time as they age. So that is a first aid kit Zoom on October 24th. So just go to ourhealthyhomes.com, click on the events tab, click on the registration button, and then I will send you the Zoom link. We have a vibrational wellness series. It's a 10-part series. This one is October 26th, and that is going to be in the city of St. Michael. So we're taking some of those around town
on the road.
On the road. Yep. A Healthier Home, Healthier You. That is October 29th. And that is going to just kind of give you an overview on the chemicals that are in your home. There's a lot of ADD, ADHD, depression, asthma, all of the cancers, all of that is on the rise, and we're going to share why. 44% of Americans are on prescription drugs. I really think that's I should check that stat. I feel like that's higher. 43,000 children are poisoned per year with bleach.
Really?
Yeah. So it's a health and wellness event. It's dinner at the Hittner home. So go on there and register for that. And then a soup soiree. So that is, I love soups. I love making soups. I'm passionate about that. And so we're going to have a gathering of gourmet creations. And so check that out. That's November 23rd. And I will, men and women. So These are open to both men and women. So just check them out.
Clean up the house, kids. You don't take a shower and come up and put on dirty clothes. So you don't clean up your body and then come out into a dirty house. This is Our Healthy Homes. Okay, when we come back, I'm all excited. We're going to be holding court.
This is good.
We're going to be holding the vaccine court at thevaccinecourt.com. Wayne Rohde is here, author, podcaster, and we're going to talk about vaccines, what got him into that, and we're just going to get educated a little bit about what's going on in the vaccine world. This is Our Healthy Homes, ourhealthyhomes.com, 651-775-9194. We'll be right back. Hey, welcome back to Our Healthy Homes, ourhealthyhomes.com, 651-775-9194. We got Wayne Rohde in the studio, and we are going to be holding court, the vaccine court. Thevaccinecourt.com is the website. What are people going to find when they go there?
Just a listing of my 2 books and descriptions, plus also people who have left, like maybe their discussions or their reasons why they bought the book.
Okay.
That's really where it is.
Okay, so what are those 2 books? Let's just get that out there for people.
This one?
Okay, so you got the Vaccine Court 2.0, revised and updated, The Dark Truth of America's Vaccine Injury Compensation Program. Love that. That's that one. What's the other one?
First one is the Vaccine Court.
Okay.
And the first one came out in November of 2014.
Okay.
This one came out in June of 2021.
This is a big book. I mean, this is like not a pamphlet.
Yeah.
This is a serious book here.
It was trimmed down.
Is it?
Yeah, the legal department doesn't like certain things. So
Okay.
They
Yes, the legal department.
They cut out about a third of the book.
Okay, so you want to live to fight another day. Okay, so let's just start with your story, because so people understand why you do this work and how you got into it. So start from the beginning, if you will, of how you approach the subject and why you're so passionate about it.
It goes back to my wife and I. My wife Robin and I. We were fortunate to have children. We were a little bit older, and we had twins, and they were born in 1997. Austin and Nicholas. And what was interesting is that it was on our 3rd wedding anniversary. I had to rush her to the hospital.
That's cool.
So anytime I have to remember how many years I've been married, I just, how old are you, Austin? Okay,
Yeah.
then and then add
3.
Right.
Okay, that type of deal. But which was yesterday. Anyway, Austin was born at 28 and a half weeks. He was kind of anxious, wanted to come into the world. But Nicholas did not. He was kind of laid back. And the doctor said the safest place for a baby who doesn't want to be born is inside their mother. Period.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And so he stayed there for another 10 days.
Now, how does that work? Because the placenta is broken.
Right.
But they aren't identical.
Okay.
So
they were in the individual sacs.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh.
And they had to be delivered vaginally. If it's a C-section, they take all the babies. They have to for prevention of infection and things like that. So, and then Nicholas gained a pound and about an inch. They did, I guess, a sonogram a couple days before he was born. And just
in that 10 days.
In that 10 days. It was amazing. He grew. That's where babies are more secure inside their mother than anywhere else.
Okay.
And then in the middle of the night, he decided he wanted to be born. So now we had 2 babies. They were premature. We were in Dallas. They were sitting in what they call the NICU, the neonatal intensive care.
What was the weight when they were born?
28 and a half weeks at 2 pounds 11 for Austin.
Okay.
And 3 pounds 10 for Nicholas.
Okay. Wow.
Okay. And so they were in the NICU for about 6 weeks. Then when they were able to be released to go home, and by the time they were 12 months old, they were their developmental milestone.
Okay.
Where they needed to be weight-wise, height.
Completely normal.
Completely normal.
Okay.
And at 12 months, we were going to take him into the doctor for a well baby checkup, which we all know is the vaccination things. And as young parents, we didn't know any different.
Right.
But they were sick. We decided to hold back.
Okay.
What were they sick with?
Just cough.
Cold.
Just
okay.
Cold, whatever.
Okay. All right.
So we went back the next month. and they received the MMR vaccine.
Okay.
That's the one that triggered Nicholas. And for the next 2 weeks...
And what is the MMR for people who are listening?
Measles, mumps, and rubella.
Okay.
That's the one
everybody gets.
Everybody gets. Whether or not we should is another question.
Right.
But, and we fought for about 2 weeks where Nicholas was constantly screaming, crying, vomiting, constipation, diarrhea, all these things for about 2 weeks. We kept calling.
After the shot.
Right. And he arched his back, and he turned, his skin was just really red, even a little darker than your outfit now. But for 2 weeks, and the pediatrician said, "Oh, this is okay. He'll be fine."
This is normal. How fast after the vaccine? When did the onset come? Was it immediate, or was it hours or days?
He was fighting this, and then he was okay after a couple of weeks.
Okay.
But we noticed a change at about 18 months. So it was about 5 months later, he noticed a change in his behavior. He started not being as social with his brother as much, doing some things, looking at the ceiling fans, some other things like this. And he slowly regressed into what we call the iron claws of severe regressive autism within a couple years. He lost his voice. He was speaking. Lost his desire to play with his brother.
Mm-hmm.
Things like this. And it wasn't until about at the age of 4 that we were 4.5 that we were able to get a proper diagnosis. And the doctor at the time, she was Columbia trained, university, and we were living in Oklahoma at the time then. She says, "I don't know much about autism, but I Xeroxed a couple pages out of a textbook, and here is a prescription for Ritalin."
Oh, wow! At that age.
Yeah. So we go
Ouch.
out. We go out outside the parking lot, and we tear up the Ritalin, throw it out, and we go home. And my wife decided that she's had enough of this, so she's going to start digging into what's going on here.
Why didn't you guys take the Ritalin?
We didn't think that the prescription, that heavy of a prescription, was appropriate for any child that young.
Okay.
And she admittedly said that she didn't know much about the topic.
Right.
That's right.
So it's like, why would you then follow that advice?
The psychiatrist training that she had, it's whatever. So we started digging into it, but my wife really wanted to find out what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, we were getting insurance denials for treatments and services for Nick. That's when I started the battle of fighting for insurance coverage for autism services that were medically necessary, clinically proven.
Right.
Insurance companies around the country were denying these things.
And this was 1990.
Well, this would be probably 2003, 2004 that we really started getting into it. That began my effort to figure out there's something wrong here when you have insurance companies that provide coverage for treatments for normal kids, but they deny them.
Oh, sure.
They have limits. They have limits on these children. And I said, there's something wrong here.
Yeah, of course. So
that's where began my advocacy. My wife was still digging into the vaccine issue.
Mm-hmm.
And we stumbled across a website, Barbara Lowe Fisher's group, mvic.org, National Vaccine Information Center, where she was one of the parents that led the effort for Congress to pass the National Vaccine Injury Compensation Program of 1986. She stumbled across this website, found an attorney. And interesting enough, it was the attorney that later would represent Hannah Poling. I don't know if anybody remembers Hannah Poling. Hannah Poling was probably the first big case of government-conceded vaccine-induced autism back in 2007. They conceded it, and it went on news everywhere. CNN covered it. Larry King was all over it. And then the CDC started backtracking it and trying to cover it back and say, oh, no, that's not autism. That's autism-like.
Oh, okay.
And all these other things, Gerberding. The
presents
CDC.
The same way, but it's not that.
Yeah, they're wordsmithing this, trying to get out.
Sure.
So We sent all the medical reports to him. He comes back and says, you got a great case for what we call encephalopathy, which is brain injury.
Mm-hmm.
Vaccine
Induced.
Causing brain injury,
okay.
which is what so many kids and so many adults are suffering from.
Oh, yes.
Okay,
yes.
of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, but you have a problem. Statute of limitations.
Oh, no.
It says the program only allows you through for 3 years. From symptoms to filing is 3 years.
And this has been how long now?
We were 3 years, 9 months.
Oh.
So we were denied any form of compensation.
Right.
So now I'm in the back of my mind going, what is this program and where we're going? So that's kind of where it started for us.
So this has had to have taken a lot of your time.
Yes.
Right? So you and your wife still working, or you were? What were you doing at the time that?
Well, our jobs allowed us to do that. I was in sales. I was computer sales.
Okay.
I was on the road, and I made my own schedules.
Okay.
My wife was working at corporate office.
Okay.
Okay.
So we were doing things on the weekends and the
nights
Okay.
and anytime you could. This is Our Healthy Homes. OurHealthyHomes.com. We're going to pick it up after the break with Wayne Rohde and this interesting journey and quest that he has regarding vaccines, vaccine injury. We'll get into more about the National Vaccine Injury Center when we come back. Welcome back. Thanks for sticking around. This is Our Healthy Homes, the 4 pillars of a healthy home. It's young living or assisted living. You can make your home a healthy home, and it all begins with you, and it begins right now with this conversation with Wayne Rohde. And we are talking about vaccines, and his child, was it Austin or Nicholas? Nicholas is the one that was injured by the vaccines. You finally come to realize, as I pick it up from the last segment, you realize that your son has been subjected to this, and you go through the process, and you finally get some acknowledgement that, yes, this is what's happened, only to find out that you're outside of the statute of limitations, and there's no soup for you. Right. There's no help available. So what did you do then? I mean, what do you do?
Well, we were paying a lot of money each month out of pocket cash for these treatments and services. I mean, we were going broke.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right.
When you're spending $3,000, $3,500 a month cash to people to provide services for Nick, and it was the bare minimum. We couldn't afford the $10,000 to $15,000 that he needed at an early age.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we fought hard in the legislature to get insurance coverage, and we were just denied. The Chamber of Commerce and the insurance lobbies are very strong in many states, and they just kept pushing back and pushing back. But sooner or later, there were just so many kids coming forward.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden you start seeing some legislators in certain states, they have a child with autism.
Yes, right.
Or whatever. And then we started getting it. But by 2008, 2009, we were still battling it where we were living in Oklahoma, and we just couldn't go any further. So we made the move. My wife got recruited to come up here to Minnesota in 2010. Best decision we ever made at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are services available.
Mm-hmm.
We're not looking for handouts. We're looking access to
tailored services, practitioners that know what they're doing.
Right. We don't have them in states that don't have reimbursement for their work.
Okay.
Right? Common sense.
Right.
So we were up here, and then that's when I got the call from a couple friends of mine up in New York and said, Wayne, we talked about it where you wanted to interview families who went through this process with the MVICP or vaccine court. You need to get on it. I think there's a book here. I said, okay. So I started interviewing, ended up interviewing 285 families.
Wow.
Okay, let's just stop there for a second. So you are interviewing people.
Mm-hmm.
You sold computers, essentially.
Computer
software. Okay, so now all of a sudden you're interviewing people.
Right.
So I get that because we've been in sales for 40 years.
Yeah.
So I get that you're good at talking with people and bringing out their needs and whatnot. But what was that like, going from a salesman's mindset to really an information gathering and documentation mindset that it takes to write a book. I mean, how did you find the skill set transfer? Was it a challenge for you or what? Because it seems like a life upheaval.
Well, what I did is I contacted a couple people that I knew.
Okay.
Dr. Andy Wakefield, who's written several books
on
autism, and he's, but also David Kirby, who wrote probably the biggest evidence of harm showing that mercury and thimerosal in vaccines are causing damage to these kids.
Okay.
That book came out back in 2006, 2007. And it was very controversial, but it couldn't be, it was above reproach. I mean, it was there.
Right. The evidence is there.
And David gave me some, sat down with me over the phone, maybe about 5 or 6 hours worth of discussions.
Okay.
And he said, you got to get away from what you did as a job and focus it as a parent. What are you like as a parent? What would you like to share with other parents?
Mm-hmm.
So what I did is I started talking to other parents. I did not want to talk about the autism issue. I wanted to talk to other parents who hepatitis B lost their baby at, 4 months.
Okay.
I wanted to talk about other things, Gardasil injuries. I wanted to talk all different, autism is, that's a big.
Where's the Gardasil injuries from?
Well, a lot of girls who are taking Gardasil were developing.
What is Gardasil?
Gardasil is HPV vaccine for.
That's what I thought.
Gardasil is the Merck product that's damaging thousands of people. Mm-hmm. And they're developing a lot of neurological disorders. Girls are. The big one that no one really knew about is sterility, because we're giving that vaccine to girls 11, 12, and 13 years of age. Okay? They don't know the damage is done to them until they get to be where they're wanting to start thinking about a family, which might be 10, 12, 15 years later.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're finding out that they're sterile.
From going back to that.
And they're automatically there's no compensation because it's 3 years.
Yeah.
Right.
And this is 10, 15 years ago they got and I talked to a mother over in outside of Madison, Wisconsin, who had 2 girls, both became sterile. And they were denied compensation. And so I started thinking, what is I talked to mom, and she was pretty forthcoming. Says, what is it like in the home for you as a parent, knowing that your 2 daughters are not going to be able to bear children?
Mm-hmm.
Said, well, there was about a year or so of going through some big depression.
And guilt.
Everything.
Yes.
And the girls had trouble because they were now in college. And they had tough times in college for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So the mental cost, the anguish is there. The mother, now the daughters, things have turned around for them. They're real big into adoption for family, which is good. But it's got to be it's very tragic that we're doing damage to our kids with traditional vaccines. And so that's a problem there. So I started writing this down and recording some of these, got them on tape. I started writing. I had all my news reporter little tablets, and I just started writing things, putting it together. And one of my friends up in New York approached Skyhorse Publishing and said, hey, Wayne's down there talking to people. We need to get it in book form. Sure enough, that's when the publisher approached me and said, let's put you into a book contract and let's get this book.
And the book consists of what?
I did some interviews. I had to take a lot of them out because parents didn't want
public,
but they agreed to be interviewed. They just didn't want like that. But I had to also, most people don't understand the process of this program. When it first started, the program covered the 7 major childhood vaccines: measles, mumps, rubella, diphtheria, tetanus, pertussis, which is whooping cough, and then polio. That was 7 vaccines, not combinations, because they were all individually given at the time. Back, Reagan signed the bill into law 1986. He didn't want to. He was basically threatened to because it was a defense budget omnibus reconciliation bill. He had to get all this other stuff in there. And Vice President Bush and then also a couple other people had to drag him to sign it. He refused. He didn't want to do this. It started in 88. By 1993, the program was set up to be very fast, efficient, effective for people to get compensation. We were compensating injuries generously and quickly.
So the 3-year period, right? So if you have a child, a grandchild, or you think that there was an injury because of the vaccine, where should they start?
Well, that's a good point. Is that this program was also Congress mandated to have a public awareness campaign, and the secretaries of HHS, going all the way back to 1988, refused to publicize this program.
Of course.
You get it on what they call the VIS statement, the vaccine information statement that everybody gets when they go in to get a vaccine. It's on the back page, hidden.
Of course.
No one's promoting it.
Yeah, 8 font.
Right.
Yeah, it's 8-point font when everything else is.
Yeah.
Yeah, 12.
Yeah, so and parents aren't going to be worried about that when they got 2 screaming kids and a mother's bag going out. No, they aren't going to do that. But so there was quite a few people filing, but doctors didn't want to
deal with it.
They didn't want anybody to know about it either because they felt, oh, wait a minute, am I a party to this?
Yeah.
No. So that's how the process started. And if we think this process is bad, the process for what we're dealing with COVID vaccines is worse. And,
I want to talk about that when we come back from
too.
break.
I got
want
some
to talk
questions
about
around that.
I want a couple of things. First of all, just think about this over the break. One, you're talking about an individual guy or a family going in saying, look, I have an injury, I'm filing a claim. Yet at the same time, these vaccines have been around forever. It seems like there's a class action opportunity there at some point in time for something. So I'd like to know what your thoughts are on that and on the COVID vaccine and because there's lots of data on the COVID vaccine. This is Our Healthy Homes. Our Healthy Homes will be right back. Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. This is Our Healthy Homes. We're in the studio with Wayne Rohde, and we're talking about vaccines. When we went out, I just posed a question because there's a vehicle in place, a process in place where people can make claims if they've been injured supposedly by a vaccine and get compensated for it and some help with that case. But it seems like that's a one-on-one deal where some of these vaccines are well-known, been around for a long time. The cases, you would think that the compilation, the numbers are just getting to the point where it's like, wow, we got to do something about this. And maybe a class action lawsuit is in the works. Is that in the works, or is there an opportunity for that?
The history of suing manufacturers goes back, back into the 1940s. But it was in the early 1980s is when it really became a focal point by Congress. A lot of kids were dying or severely injured from the DPT vaccine, the old DPT. If anybody understands what the DPT vaccine, it was known as a dirty vaccine. It wasn't really a good, clean process because of the pertussis bacteria that was all part of it. And it was caused hundreds of deaths and thousands of severely disabled kids. A couple parents got together, and then that's when they started approaching Congress. Congress said, well, we like to look at this, but the pharmaceutical industry sold Congress a lie, on the lie that, hey, we're going out of business because so many people are actually winning lawsuits. There was a lot of lawsuits. Several of them lost on appeal. People don't understand the court system. You might win at the initial court.
Sure.
The appellate division is very good for defendants, the federal court system, and a lot of them lost on appeal. But at the same time, property casualty companies, which insured the manufacturers, they said, well, we're just going to raise your rates maybe 500%, 600%. The pharmaceutical industry at the time there wasn't that much money in vaccines as far as profit.
Mm-hmm.
But once the program started, Congress gave complete immunity, almost complete immunity, to the manufacturers. You have to go to this program. You can't go to, but you could leave the program after 240 days and take your chances in state court and file what they call civil tort, that type of thing. Once the program started, more vaccines were added to the schedule because there was like this.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden,
it was like free money.
Yeah. Well, and then the profits started soaring for the manufacturers because they didn't have to worry about being sued in lawsuits, things like this. But it was kind of interesting is that there was a development. It had to do with President Obama when he wanted the Affordable Care Act to be passed. He reached out to the pharmaceutical industry. And to me, that's the first time that he told the Democratic Party, the pharmaceutical industry is your friend.
Mm-hmm.
And then go from there. That was in 2009 to get that passed. But as a thank you, in 2011, he got Scalia to carry the water for the pharmaceutical industry and basically ruled in Hannah Bruzewitz versus Wyatt Labs that this program is the exclusive remedy for all vaccine injury claims. You cannot go to court and sue for injury at all. Okay, so you got both political parties kind of involved in this, but his pharmaceutical industry just took over and became the number one corporate cabal of the U.S. federal government.
Right. And a lot of media.
Right, like that. So there's really no way to do anything. But then COVID comes.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what's really crazy is that there's a program out there called the Countermeasures Injury Compensation Program.
Say that again.
Countermeasures Injury Compensation Program, known as the CICP.
Okay.
It was established in 2010 by Congress. Actually, Farmer wrote the bill. Congress just voted on it in the middle of the night. They did like this. Most of the members didn't even know what they were voting for. It created an alternative compensation program, and it was designed for what we call short-term regional outbreaks of disease, maybe from a hurricane, maybe from massive tornadoes, wildfires, things like this.
Sure.
But H1N1 flu virus was rampant, caused a lot of problems in the United States in 2009. A vaccine was fast-tracked, much like the COVID vaccine. They run parallel, how this whole thing works together. And it was put in there, and this vaccine caused a tremendous amount of injuries, especially what we call Guillain-Barré, kind of like the modern-day polio, where it affects your bottom, your legs and your limbs, and you can't move or paralyzed.
My girlfriend just went through that.
Yeah. And can be severe. When it's severe, it becomes very...
you can be paralyzed.
You can be paralyzed, but it'll get up into your diaphragm, and people will actually die because they can't breathe.
Mm-hmm.
That's how that can happen to some, not all, but to some. So this countermeasures program had this, what we call the H1N1. But our HRSA and HHS, Department of Health and Human Services, decided that the H1N1 vaccine was safe enough, even though it injured a lot.
Right.
They are now putting it into the modern-day flu shot. It's one of the strains in the modern-day flu shot. So it causes a lot of problems. The flu shot is not safe and effective.
No.
Especially for seniors. It's bad. But
I thought I remember one time reading that after having 5 consecutive flu shots, then each one that you have thereafter increases your Alzheimer's by 10% each year.
Could be, because there's also a lot of toxins in that flu shot. Even though they say it doesn't contain any mercury or thimerosal-free garbage.
Right.
There's other things in that
thing.
thing.
They just replace it with something else.
Right.
Yep.
Now, countermeasures is hosts like the Ebola countermeasures, Zika countermeasures, botulism, and things like that we need to address regional small outbreaks, if there were any.
Mm-hmm. Right.
COVID comes along, catches everybody by surprise.
Right.
There was a few of us. I was speaking at a group about a year before and said, we got to watch this program and the PrEP Act. And this is in 2019. It says this is dangerous stuff because of the way our presidents, Obama and before that Bush, were issuing executive orders on how to quarantine people.
Oh.
And this is all part of that PrEP Act.
Mm-hmm.
And then the states get involved before that, and the emergency powers that each of the states have. This is all connected. But COVID comes along, and then they declare and put the vaccine for COVID into the countermeasures injury compensation program. Now, here's the difference. Statute of limitations is only 1 year from the date of administration.
From the
time you get the shot.
COVID.
Time you get the shot, or you get put on a ventilator, or you get remdesivir, or any of the other antivirals or medicines or devices used to combat the virus, you got 1 year to file a claim in the CICP. The other problem is that there's hardly any money in this program. There's no transparency. There is not a funding source. So we don't know if anybody's going to get compensated.
Sure.
And the public doesn't know. And it's also an administrative process. It's not a judicial process, which allows for the public to examine the final decisions. Here, no one knows. It's like a dark room. You submit a petition, and you're up against the Secretary of HHS. Okay, you have no access to the courts. Nothing. No appeals to a court. Nothing. You don't have access to have an experienced attorney that you have in the vaccine court or their medical experts. You don't have that mechanism. So you're really up against it. It's like you have the right to file and lose.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and how many people are making the connection between I got the COVID vaccine, and then it takes 5-6 months, the turbo cancers, like whatever to come about. You're already past that year before you've even put the 2 and 2 together.
Right.
That
people have quote unquote long COVID. It probably isn't long COVID. It's a result of the vaccine.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Or a combination of being infected with the virus and the vaccine working together.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I would suspect that it is.
So so pretty much if you got the COVID vaccine within the last year, go file it just in case because you might need it.
Right. But here's
get on record.
No one knew when the vaccines were rolled out this program existed.
Well, of course not.
There was no informed consent.
Mm-hmm.
There was nothing there.
None.
So people were basically on their own and did not figure out. And it's just amazing is the number of people that just had no clue that they were eligible for a compensation program and were informed.
What if you get the flu shot? What if you get the flu shot? Can you do your claim within the year from a flu shot?
Well, if you get a flu shot, you got to go to the MVICP.
That's a different program.
Okay.
I'll address that after the break because that's a very, very good point.
We're in our fourth segment right now. There is no more after the break.
No.
Okay, so
we got to have you back.
Quickly, what are the numbers in the U.S. on COVID vaccine injuries? Do you have them in the U.S. or in Minnesota by chance?
I've got them, and they're right here. Now, here's what I'm going to give you Minnesota's.
Okay.
Yes.
In Minnesota, since day one, there's been 550 reports in VAERS of COVID deaths from the vaccine.
That's been reported.
Mm-hmm. You got 4,600 in hospitalized, so much like that. But if you go nationwide, you're about 38,000 deaths. And doctor's visits, 245,000. Hospitalizations, 220,000.
Fastest hour in radio, ladies and gentlemen. Our
no
Healthy
kidding.
Homes.
Oh
Our
my
Healthy
God.
Homes. We're out of time this week. We'll see you next week.
Here's home.
But when he calls me sugar, I love that man with all my might. he calls me that name, it does things to me. I tell him, honey, you can call me sugar.